Good afternoon, my lovelies. We are back again, finally. Thank you for being patient with our camera issues. We're still tweaking that, working on it. Well, last time we came together, we decided we were going to do our line work for this handy dandy little mushroom. And we put out polls on both Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr to figure out what color we should actually fill it in. Should we do green or red? Well, a resounding number of you decided to go with red. So, we're going to make this little guy. We're going to show you how to add some colors to our very pale little mushroom buddy. So, what you're going to need for that? You're going to need what you've already done, your line work. Make sure you're in your hoop, your pattern so you know what you're doing, or, wing it. Have fun with it. It's your project. I need some white floss, some red floss, some scissors, unless you want to chew your floss like an animal. And again, no judgment. Go for it. Need your needle, and then we're going to get started. So, personally, with working with white, it is, just be straight up honest with you, using white is a pain, just because, especially if you're using white Aida cloth, which is what we're currently using, it is very difficult. That's the easiest way to say it. Very difficult to tell where you have put white or where any of your but it's difficult to tell the difference between your Aida cloth and your floss. But that's why I start with colors first and work my way to the white. So I'm going to cut a good length of whatever length you are comfortable working with. I personally don't really enjoy changing my colors frequently when I work. But again, you craft the way you want to craft. No one's going to tell you what you're doing is wrong unless you're actively doing a completely different craft. For example, if you're trying to do this with knitting needles, you might be on the wrong channel. Just a suggestion. But me using a longer floss just means I'm going to need to be a bit more patient so I don't get all tangled up and knotted, because that is not how we want to start our day, is it? So thread that puppy like you would any other needle. Leave a tail. Again, depending on how you want to do it, you leave your tail, or you can do that fun, handy-dandy one strand and knot it thing. Again, you do you, my dears. So, working from left to right, or in this case, we're going to start here and work our way up and around. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to start down here, which translates to this little corner right here on our handy dandy mushroom. So take your red in that bottom left hand corner, and again, just like when we first started our black, leave a little bit of a tail. Hold it with your finger so it doesn't go anywhere, because it will. It has things it wants to do, and being nice and patient for you is apparently not on the docket. Sometimes thread can be a butt, but that's okay. We will get through it together. So I'm going to make sure I got my finger on that so it's not going to go anywhere. When I come out the other spot, I flip her back over, because I've already tangled myself. See? That's why you gotta be patient, or that happens. But, or we can just go with, it's a knot, so my thread's not gonna go anywhere now. It might want to be a butt, but now it's stuck. Being creative is all about overcoming obstacles. So because my little knot there removed itself from my first thread, we just went back and fixed it. So again, depending on how you're going to display your work, no one's going to see the back. So it can look like a hot mess, or it can look like you are a structured, sane individual. No one's going to know unless you flip it over for them. I'm not a structured, sane individual. It's a mess. I know it's a mess, but the front looks pretty, so therefore I'm fine. So we're going to go back, bottom right, top left. Bottom right. Oh, did it again. That's not very nice. Now sometimes these knots are pretty common. I'm not 100% sure how they happen, so never really paying attention when they happen. The best way I have discovered to fix these puppies is put my, I'm not sure how well you can see that, put my needle in this part right here just to get the knot to, as odd as it sounds, go the other way. And then I just pull the thread and the knot goes away. Now to make sure that doesn't happen again, I am going to take my scissors and kind of cut a little bit of that hot knot mess off the back of our work. And hopefully that'll help us not get stuck next time. Let's cross our fingers. Or have somebody else cross their fingers, because your hands are full of stitching right now, and that will be a talent if you can do that at the same time. If you can, props. So we got our first two. Now we'll go to the next one right here, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 spaces across. But we also went up and into that hole, remember? So that happens, what do? You improvise, you adapt. So the next spot, we're going to go from the top right to the bottom left, and then continue across for 4 more spaces from the bottom left to the top right. Two. Remember, you don't want to you want your stitches to stay precise and tight, but you don't want it so tight that you're actually pulling or warping your cloth, because that's going to make everything look like a hot mess. So we've gone across 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to go back the other way and make pretty little X's. So like we always do, bottom right, to the top left. And again, if you're just doing this yourself, music, podcasts, audiobooks, having my soothing voice sarcastically babbling in the background, whatever floats your boat. Or you can just enjoy the silence and enjoy your hobby. I'm personally a fan of it because it's literally a graph. If you can draw a graph, you can make it onto a piece of Aida cloth. You can physically make anything you want from a grid into this. It's easy peasy. So this area, everything that's in these little dotted spots, those are actually going to be white. So we're going to not cross stitch those. So we're going to go up and over and take care of these 2 puppies. So we don't want to put anything here, because like I said, that's going to be white later. I will say this though about cross stitching. It is a fun hobby. It is very relaxing. You unfortunately will get some comments about how, oh, that's an old lady's craft. Why don't you go do something else for a change? And then they'll list off something random. You can be nice and just smile and nod, or you can do what I like to do and look them dead in the face and go, the fact that I am patient enough to stab something over 1,000 times should really concern you. And you probably should not be insulting my favorite hobby. That usually gets them quiet, especially if you can do it with a completely straight face. That's what sells it. So we're now going to go up 2 singular spaces. So, because we're only doing those one, whoop, that went flying. Because you're only going to do those 1 spaces, we're going to do the entire thing. So bottom left, top right, and then bottom right, top left. And just finish up that little box so you don't have to go back. But because we went in this space right here, if we go back in that space, you're going to undo that pretty little X you just did. So let's not do that. So go to the next box, and we're going to do a top right to bottom left, and bottom right to top left. And if you're looking at our pattern and comparing, you can see that we're slowly starting to make that circle appear. Our next one is 2 spaces. Oh no! I just undid our little X because I forgot completely that's where our stitch ended. Let's see how easy that is to fix. So no worries. No reason to panic. There's no reason to throw your cross-stitch hoop across the room in a frenzy. No, unless that's something that you enjoy doing while cross-stitching. If that's part of your plan and that is part of your routine, who am I to get mad at you for that? Just remember that Aida cloth is usually white and it will stain. So if it falls on something icky, you've kind of just set yourself back in your craft. So there's our 2. Spiffy. Now we have a longer line here. Now you can do one of a few things. You can go straight across, come all the way back, do these 2 pieces here, then go to these pieces, and then you can just come over here and do these pieces, so on and so forth. Or you can do what I'm personally going to do, because I don't like I've mentioned before, starting and stopping, because that leaves way too many tails in the back of your work, and sometimes things can happen, because we're realistic on this channel. So I'm personally going to take this one, go up here, take care of these 2, come down here, and then do all that. So let's see what happens. We did this before and it worked out fine, but I could have also have dreamed that entire situation happened and everything's actually a hot mess. We'll figure it out. It'll be more fun that way. So, because what is something that we always say, my dears, it's your craft. You do you. Because guess what? Whether or not you make this thing completely out of order, or you go line by line, square by square, tiny little hole by tiny little hole, it's going to look the same either way, unless you decide to light it on fire, or, you know, throw it across the room like we were talking about earlier. So, there is our first spot. And thankfully now, because it's outlined, we can more easily see where it is when we come back next time and actually make it a thing. Which is fantastic. So, going all the way across, this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces across. We've already done 1. So we need to go across 9 times. And that is what you're going to do. I can't remember exactly where I ended off, so we're going to go in the top right to the bottom left, because I know there's nothing coming out of that spot, and that way we won't undo our stitches. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So now what we're going to do, you see this little lip right here? It's the same thing we had over here. So while we're over here in this Hot Mess Express, we're going to go up and take care of those two and just hash those out before we go back. So upper right, bottom left, 1, 2. And also, keep in mind, most patterns aren't mirrors, depending on what you're making. Some things are a lot more organic and flowy. But when it comes to these little mushrooms, these are a mirrored image. So if for some reason you're in the middle of making this thing and you don't want to look at your pattern, you've forgotten to look at your pattern, or you have decided to take your work with you, it's like to do on the train or do on a really long red light. If you've done half of it, you can do the other half of it. Easy peasy. And make it more, even easier, more mind-blowingly easy. These Mario mushrooms, once you get the red done, or the green, or the blue, depending on if you're trying to get a new life, get bigger, or shrink, the spots are white. So once that color is done, all you gotta do is do the exact same back and forth monotony with white. So there's no guesswork. White's pretty simple. Except you may or may not remember where you put the white, which, trust me, there's probably a project or two that I have running around that's missing a small chunk of white, because as you can see, well, as easy as you can see with my camera, because if I get really, really close, it gets really, really fuzzy. But there's a texture here because everything's 3D, but this white part is completely flat because it's all holes. And Aida cloth. So, we have done our 10 across, and now we're here. You could, if you wanted to, finish off your work and restart up here. And since you all know by now that I don't like leaving that many tails, I am not going to do that. I am okay if my work is a little bit of a mess, because no one's going to see that. Except for you guys, because I just like flashing the backside of my work at you. So, we're going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, on our bottom row here, if you want to mirror it there, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to come in on this row right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's multiple different ways to read a pattern, whatever makes easier for you. You could have gone, oh, I need to leave 2 empty spaces for the white, so there's 1, 2 right there. Or you can do what we just did and count it across on your main row. Or if you think of a completely different way to do that, that's fantastic. Let me know what that is in the comments so I can make a note of it. You might teach me something. Because learning is good for everybody. Let's see, we're going to go across 4. Now, again, everybody has their own way of doing things. I'm going to, if you remember how we came up here and just did all of our hash marks all the way up here and all the way over here and then X'd all the way back down, I'm going to do my hash marks all the way up and then do my X's all the way down so that I can keep going onto this side of my mushroom without stopping. If that's not something you want to do, that is absolutely fine. Feel free to finish off just like we did with the black. From earlier, and then you will be good to go. And then we go up to our other two. And now we have all of our little hash marks because it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. So now we're going to go all the way back and make little X's all the way down. So bottom right, top left, bottom right, top left. Whether you want to just zigzag it, you can. So again, as long as the front looks pretty, it's okay if the back's a little bit of a mess. Okay, now that last little X, we have finished the top chunk of our little mushroom on this side. We now have 1, 2, 3 distinct spots, which remember, we're going to come back later and fill it with white. Right now, it looks like our poor little mushroom fell asleep at a frat party with a friend with a Sharpie. We should probably keep going so he's not called very unnice names. So our next one is going to be these two puppies right here. So 1, 2, 3 across, or like I said, you can count from the white. Count this way. We need 1, 2, 3, 4 dots of white before we start doing more red. So 1, 2, 3, 4, which means our delightful little needle should pop up right about there. One, two. We're going to do our little X's. Bottom right, top left. Bottom right, top left. Okay. And now, like I said, because it's a mirror, we know that we have 2 X's that go straight down after we have a little lip of 3 white dots here. So instead of looking at our pattern, we're going to come over here and make our 2 little X's in the mirror of the ones on the other side. And like I said, not every pattern you have is going to be perfectly mirrored because depending on what you're doing, if it's text, for example, will not be a mirror image. So those are usually good things to keep a pattern around for. And that's why we stop and think. Because remember, your mirrored image needs to literally be a mirror, and I was about to totally mess up our cute little white dots. But technically it wouldn't be too bad of a mess up. Cross stitch is relatively easy to correct your mistake if you can catch it early on. If I'd gotten this far and realized I had an error like over here, that would be an instance where I would probably throw my own work across the room, because that's going to be awful to fix, because you'd have to go all the way back and undo all of this work we've already done, which is not a pleasant thought. And so if we are mirroring, wow, words are fun today, aren't they? What we have on the other side, we're going to take our little hash marks all the way across, and also in this little corner in the bottom. And then we're going to go all the way through and put our little X's in there. So bottom right to top left, or top left to bottom right, depending on where your little X is. I'm thinking of eventually getting some sort of camera mounted, like, to my chest or my forehead, to make this a little bit easier for you, my lovelies, to see what I'm doing. What do you think? Chest cam or delightful little head camera? Because I think both would be rather humorous. I'd like to explain that one to my husband. Alrighty. And there is your red. And our back isn't as messy as I was letting it off to be. So that's cool. Now you're going to take your red, what you've been doing, and we're going to finish it off. If you remember how we did that before, awesome. I'm proud of you for remembering. I suck at remembering things, so we're going to show you anyway, in case you're like me and have forgotten everything. We're going to take our needle and carefully go under all of our precise little lines in the back of our piece, pretty much tucking the tail of our floss. You can also tuck it under the back side of your Aida cloth, but you want to be careful. You want to flip it over, make sure you don't see your needle up front, because then you're going to have a whole different slew of problems. Go ahead and pull through. Snip off your excess. And now you have all of your red done, or your green, or your blue. I'm not there telling you what colors to make it. I'm just saying that the poll that we did said people wanted red. So we went with red. So the next part is going to be our white. I'll give you 3 guesses of where the white's going to go, and the first 2 don't count. I'll give you a second to think on that. And if you guess that all these little white spots are going to be filled in with white floss, you might even get cookies, because you are very, very correct. So we get to go in and fill in all of our white with white floss. This is probably going to be a cross-stitching version of watching somebody paint on a canvas with white paint. You're not going to see too much of the stitches. Wow, stitches? Oof. You're not going to see as much, but you will get to see a person's frustration using a color against the same color. But my own personal trick when it comes to white is, like I said earlier, first I will go through and make sure that I have every other color that I need done and out of the way, because it makes it just so much easier to do. Second, I will do my little hash marks all the way up and get every line done, and then X all the way down. So what we're going to do, and again, everybody has their own method. I have mine, you have your, well, you have yours, or you'll eventually have yours, especially if this is your first excursion into cross-stitchery, which again is completely fine. Thank you for letting me be your tour guide this evening, afternoon today for that. Sorry for any crazy bad habits you pick up while you're here. White is already being frustrating because the tail does not want to tuck with the rest of our stitching. So bottom left, top right. And if you find a more interesting, less headache-inducing way of using white floss, please let me know. That would be fantastic. Please feel free to drop me a line. If you have my number, send me a text, Facebook, message me here on Twitch or YouTube, wherever you see this movie, and let me know, because white is an awful color to cross stitch on white Aida cloth. Which is why, like I said previously, my trick is to do everything one way with that white and then do everything going back. So we're going to do one spot at a time, because if we don't, we're going to forget which spots we did. Just trust me, I've done that too. But I guess you can. One of the pluses about doing white floss is if you can't tell what it looks like on the front, you're not going to see a mess on the back because you can't see it, because it blends so well into what you're doing. It's a little frustrating. So we have done little hash marks all the way up our first spot. Now we're going to go back the way we came. So top left, bottom right, or bottom right, top left, whichever way you prefer to do it. I'm not going to yell at you if you decide to do it the other way, because just because I'm doing it this way does not mean it's going to be the way that works for you. Not to mention, some folks are trying to learn this skill and they are left-handed, so sometimes going the other way will help you out better. Bottom left, top right. Wow, bottom right, top left. There we go. Words are fun this afternoon. Today. Sorry, for some reason, whenever my brain goes into what I call screensaver mode, I start humming Jeepers Creepers, and I'm not sure why. I blame the film. What about you, though? Do you have anywhere that your brain just kind of meanders off to if it's left unattended for too long? Like a kid in a candy store? So, we have finished our first little white spot. The only real difference you can tell is that, again, you have a texture change, because this is very flat, and this is kind of bumpy, because we literally just gave it a 3D texture. You can also very slightly tell a color difference. Also, the holes are a lot more difficult to see here, because we've used them all up. You can't really see that here anymore. You can still see all your holes on this one. So, we're going to keep doing that and fill up all of our little white spots and our face. Again, if that's something you want to do, if you want to go ahead and do this entire thing in very different colors, you go for it, my dear. More power to you. Because Nintendo is putting out different mushrooms for every Mario game, or anything that has Mario in it. So who knows? You might design the next awesome mushroom that ruins somebody's friendship while they're playing Mario Kart. Go for it. Oh no, I lost my thread again. I hate when that happens. We're just going to go all the way across our giant dot here in the middle. Hopefully the rest of my Florida folks are staying dry. Well, anywhere really are staying dry, because it sounds kind of thundery outside. So if for any reason I lose you guys, God forbid, I will stop what I'm doing and we will continue the next time I get electricity. But I don't think we're going to lose it. Famous last words from the cross stitcher. But after we're finished with our mushrooms today, I'm going to let you in on what our next project's going to be. Because yours truly has been commissioned to work on a large piece that thankfully, and interestingly enough, has text. So I can show you how we're going to do lettering. Lettering is rather fun. It can be a little time consuming. It can also make you want to pull out your flippin' hair, because if you're like me, aside from the mess you currently see me doing, I like to keep things neat and orderly and lined up so it looks even and pleasant to the eye. So I've had to actually remake this pattern that I'm going to show you later about 4 or 5 times, because the lettering was not centered properly. And, ironically enough, the thing is covered in mushrooms. Not these mushrooms, mind you. I think I have one hidden in there, though, for fun. But it is actual fungus. Fungus among us. All over. And it's a rather big piece, so you'll have to let me know if that's something you want to watch step by step, or just wanted to visit and see little pieces of it. So we've done all of our X's going We've done all of our little hash marks going one way. Now we're going to do all of our little X's going another way, or as many as we can with this itty bitty tail. And if for any reason sitting here watching me do the exact same thing over and over and over and over again isn't your cup of tea, we will be working on editing this video and the last one where we did the outlines for our little mushroom buddies and posting them on YouTube with a little bit of splicery magic, so that it's a here, do this, congratulations, now we've caught up to each other in flash forwards and sideways and all sorts of movie magic. And after that one, we're going to finish off this row of white. And because white is a pain in the butt, please try to remember what you've done so far, because you don't want to sit there and keep going back and forth, because it's going to drive you crazy. It's going to drive you mad, and I'm sorry ahead of time that's going to happen. So we're going to flip her over, and we're going to tuck that tail and cut off the end. There we go. And now we're going to go back, load up some more white onto our needle, and do this whole kit and caboodle over again. Where did my original thread of white go? Oh, there you are. It got snagged on something and then decided to try and run off. So, let's see, we did those two. Good. Let's see if I can remember where we started and left off. Who has two thumbs and not the best memory for what she's been doing in the past hour and a half? This girl, right here. So bottom right, top left, and we're going to just meander our way across. Try and remember to tuck that tail as you're going, or your floss is going to come loose and run off and make everything a discombobulated mess. But if that happens, that's fine. We can just take a stitch ripper and take all of your thread out and do it again. And again and again and again. Because if you don't make mistakes, you don't learn how to get better after you make that mistake. Because there's a big difference between doing something for the first time and doing it perfectly well, and doing something for the first time and messing up. If you mess up, you can learn how to fix it, which is great. If you do something right the first time, some folks just kind of, awesome, congratulations, and wander off with their day, and you'd never actually learn how to fix your problems. Some folks are okay with that. I'm really not. I'm the kind of person that, okay, don't touch the stove. Well, why? Why not touch the stove? Well, because it's hot. Oh, that makes sense. Thanks. I really wish that 4-year-old me knew that, because 4-year-old me did not listen to my mother when she said the stove was hot. We had those handy-dandy coils on our burner. And little 3-4-year-old me, as tall as a mountain child that I was, decided I was going to go peek into what she was making for dinner. Got up on my little tiptoes and put my entire bottom lip on a coil. On a very, very hot coil. I think it was actually this color when I did it. There was much weeping, much tears, much pain. And my mother, in her infinite wisdom, after looking at me and pretty much saying, well, I told you, gave me a Diet Coke can to put on my face and sent me on my way. So we have finished our second dot. And again, you can kind of tell color-wise, changing-wise here, between no thread and thread. You can definitely tell if you're fondling your work, which I actually highly suggest you fondle your work as you go. So because this is going to be a long jump from here to here, we're actually going to finish off this tail and then restart in our other spot. Now, if you're wondering, is this the average size Aida cloth? What if I have a really intricate pattern that takes up a lot of space? What do I do? Which, hey, I've got a project of my own coming up that's going to be ginormous. And it's going to be ginormous no matter what I do. But 14 count Aida cloth is actually like the average. They also have an 18, which makes things smaller. It makes things like here's an 18. It's the exact same pattern. I didn't change anything except the Aida cloth. It's the exact same thing. It's just smaller. And then, if you want to really make your brain explode, they have 24 count, which is minuscule. I would suggest doing that if you are insane, or have a very, very intricate, like, portrait style thing you're going to work on for a cross stitch. I might actually get that one day just to play with it, because I am insane. So, I'm going to come back into here. We're going to hold on to that tail so it doesn't get away from us. And then we're going to do what we've been doing since we started this shindig. We're going to go across, bottom left, top right. And again, because we're using white, and white wants to make us crazy, we're going to do the entire thing with our hash marks in one direction first. And then we'll fill her in when we go back. Get in there, you. Now, every once in a while, it might be a little difficult to get your needle through, especially if there's already some floss in there. But you have to remember, each time you put your floss through one of these holes on your Aida cloth, you've already put 2 strands of floss through there. So if you're going to go back in the same hole, like what we're doing here, where our white's meeting our black right here, you're shoving 4 threads worth of your floss into that one space. So sometimes it might get a little difficult, but don't fret. I have faith in your abilities. You can do it. And if not, you're the one with the needle, so stab it. Stab it until it listens to you. This works for crafting, not for people. If you stab people that aren't listening to you, A, they'll stop listening to you because you're most likely going to kill them. And B, you're going to go to jail. I'm not sure if you can cross-stitch in prison, actually. Something to look up. Dear Google. An NSA listening device. Am I allowed to cross-stitch in jail? We should probably look that up. I'm a little curious. One day my search bar is going to freak out the government just because I have a random question. Not that I want to actually do anything, but I'm actually really curious. And I don't want to do it for myself. So, we have finished off our other little spot. And because there's only 2 spaces across, we're just going to whoosh over and keep going. So bottom left, top right, bottom left, top right, bottom left, top right, bottom left, top right, or top right, bottom left to really put people on edge. Bum, 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 da, 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 da. Eventually, as we keep doing this, as more streams happen and more DIYs, how-tos, watch me creates happen, we will get a bit more entertaining. We might even get some tunes going in the background so that it's not just me and the sound of my fan, because that's probably driving somebody crazy out there, just listening to my fan oscillate. But if that is a sound you can hear, please let me know, because I can't hear it, because noise-canceling headphones are a godsend. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. See, that hole is a little annoying because it has 3 colors in one spot. So it does not like that I'm trying to put more color into it. But where there's a will, there's a way. And we finished that spot. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 spots complete. You can actually tell a bit, if you're looking at it, which spots have color and which ones don't. Because you can't see any more dots here because they are full of floss. So we're going to finish off that tail because I don't have much more to go, and re-thread up for that last one. Let's see. There's that. One of my best buddies has just given me a tune to see if we can play that while we're doing this. So let's see if... Oh, it is very chill. I like that. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it though, unfortunately. You have to let me know if you can hear that in the background. See if you can. Spiffy. If it's too loud, we will turn that down. There we go. Okay. So back to what we're doing. We're going to keep adding white right there. So. Bottom left. Make sure to hold your finger on the back so your tail does not get out of control, because it will, because it literally has a mind of its own and no mind of its own because it's floss. Like we've been doing the entire time. We're going to hash mark across and then hash mark back. There we go. And one of the plus sides about white is if for any reason you actually do miss a stitch, it's white. No one's really gonna know, except for you, if you have like pinpoint eyesight and little inconsistencies can bother you. I, for one, know that I've gone over the same spot a few times with white, just because, again, after doing this for a while, you just left, right, and you kind of zone. So you could completely forget what you're doing. It's pretty much the crafting version of rereading the same page over and over again because you swear you're reading but you're not. Oh no! There we go. My yarn got a little ahead of itself. Yarn. My floss. Because every once in a while, as you're doing this, because you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, your floss will get tangled. Don't panic. Don't think it's something that you're doing. It's not you. It's the floss. If that happens, I usually turn my work upside down, work my finger down, and it will unspin itself. You can do that, or like some of my more bullheaded friends, keep soldiering on and work through it. There we go. And now all of your little mushroom spots are done. Top of your mushroom is completely filled in. All we've got to do now is his little face. And then you, my lovelies, are done. You've completed your first project if this is where you started cross stitching. If not, you have made a mushroom anyway, and you are awesome for doing that. So because we ended down here, or down here, we can, and I personally will, because as I've mentioned previously multiple times, I don't like tails all over the back of my work. So I'm just going to keep going. And because our stitches are really close, I'm just going to go underneath and bypass his eyeball and keep going. Usually I don't worry about changing, I don't worry about ending my floss and restarting if it's only a few spaces away. But if I were, let's say if I were to finish what we were doing right here, if I need to go from here to here, I would finish off and restart up here. But since pretty much our entire piece has been about 2 spaces from one section to the next, I haven't really worried about it. Because no one's going to see the back of your work. Unless you're somebody like me, who is talking to all of you and flashing the back and showing you what it looks like. I know it's a mess. You can see that it's a mess. But look at the front. The front looks so put together. Everything's good. Especially if you're going to turn this into something like a patch. All you're going to do is coat the back in glue anyway before you attach it to something and sew it on. So definitely no one's going to see it then. So no worries. No reason to panic. You can leave your towel at home. Gold stars for people that get that reference. My spouse might, if he's paying attention. But we're just going to keep on going until our thread gets too short. Hopefully, if we're lucky, which would be pretty baller if we were lucky, we can get all the way finished going one direction with our thread. And then just come back and finish her up. That'd be pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I love when things like that happen. kind of like when you walk around and you find the perfect parking space or things fit perfectly. It's just visually pleasing. We might be able to make it. Let's find out. Also, if for any reason there's something that you guys want to see me cross stitch or crochet, because that's a bit more in my wheelhouse. Critter Stitchin actually is my crochet shop, which if you go to Etsy and you type in Critter Stitchin the same way as my name and information, you'll come to my shop where I have all sorts of who's-its and what's-its of various nerdy varieties that I'm adding to whenever I can. So if there's anything you think you might want to learn how to make or see somebody else make, we can look into that. Fabulous. We were able to go through the entire face one direction on one piece of floss. How cool is that? So we're going to finish off that mess and then grab some more floss and go back the other way. And then you, my dears, will be done with your first, second, third, fourth, whichever project. Let's see. Don't know. I'm not going to risk that. Trying to pull out a bit more. Get our 2 strands out. And now, we don't really have to remember which rows have been done because these rows have all been done. What we need to worry about is which way we went crosswise. But since the normal stitch you're always going to make is from bottom left to top right, or top right to bottom left, depending on where your stitches are going or what you're doing, we know that we can go from the bottom right to top left, or top left to bottom right, all around the face to finish that off. So that, my dearies, is what we're going to do. But going back to the suggesting what to make next time, please remember that copywritten stuff, you need to give rights and acknowledgement to the original artist and the original idea. I know for a fact I did not design the Mario mushrooms. That would have been fabulous if I had, but I don't work for Nintendo. So that wasn't me. And I have not claimed it to be me. So, if you have suggestions, I would love to hear them. But also, like I said previously, we want to give credit where credit is due. So if it is something that you have found, it's like, hey, this is a really cool Pokemon spray, or wow, I really love Cloud and Aerith from Final Fantasy. Can we make that? Yeah, sure. We'll look up, we'll see what we can do. But if you like bring out something of, oh, I don't know who made this or who this belongs to, that's where you get into uncomfortable territory, because you need permission from the artist before you start making their stuff, and especially before you start streaming it or selling things with that image on it. Oof. So it's always a good idea to look and give credit before just assuming things. Don't be a butt, children, or you get put in the bad corner. And we're just gonna bottom right, top left, or top left to bottom right, all the way across to finish up our little mushroom buddy. You're so close. You're almost done. I'm so proud of you guys. And we haven't bled once, which is a little surprising. Of course, the cross stitch needle is dull. It's supposed to be dull so you don't put holes in your Aida fabric. So if you're bleeding, you might want to consider not stabbing your cloth as hard as you're currently doing, because apparently something is a little off. You might also want to go put on a band-aid, because, like I said, most Aida cloth is white, and blood, my menstruating friends will attest to this, blood stains everything. So we want to watch that. Bum, 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 bum. And if you're by chance upset that, I voted green, why aren't we doing a green mushroom? Well, unfortunately, across my Facebook, my Twitter, my Tumblr, all those platforms, red, strangely enough, won by almost, not unanimous, but a pretty strong vote. There's a lot of folks who wanted the red one up. Sorry. They wanted a red mushroom. One more line. One more line and we're done. And you finished. Are you stoked? You should be stoked. You made a thing. You used your own 2 hands and you made a thing. Not everybody can say they made a thing today, but you can. You made a thing. And nobody died. Which is always a plus for me. You have a bad Monday? Yeah, it was kind of awful, but did you die? Did you hurt anybody else? No? Then awesome. It could have been worse. I don't think people on the other side of the counter in the customer service industry realize how close they get to being hit with a cash register every day with how they talk to people. Random observation. Alrighty, my lovelies. With that last little stitch, you have completed your mushroom. Look at you. Look at you making stuff. You're awesome. So you go in the back, you finish off that last thread. If your back is cleaner than mine, I'm even more proud of you. You are more organized than I am, and that is good. But I'm comfortable with my crazy mess. That's fine. To each their own. Snip that extra off. Look at that. You made a thing. You listened to some random person babble for an hour or so, and you have made a thing all by yourself. I'm proud of you. You did good. So we don't lose our last bit of white. We're going to... Do you remember my little trick? Do you remember the index card with how we are... Well, at least how I will hold on to all of my extras. Cut your little triangles. Put a little line there. And go ahead and wrap it up. Now, folks, you can use anything you want to store your floss. I've seen folks use old spools of empty threads. I've seen them do what I'm doing. If you go to any cross stitch area in a Hobby Lobby, a Joann's, you might get lucky at Walmart. No promises. You might get lucky at Walmart. You can find that. And again, if not, index cards. Index cards are amazing. They do all of the things that we want that we don't want to do. But look at you. You're done. It's finished. All of the white is white, all the red is red, or green, or blue, depending on how you made it. Again, your project. You do you. My back is a mess. I'm okay with that. But your front is done. Looks very pretty. So as I was babbling earlier, my next project is going to be a bit bigger than a almost 16 by 16 mushroom. My next project is going to be rather bulky. But next time, we're going to learn how to do text. How fun is that? And as a size comparison, these giant spots are 8 by 8. Our little mushroom buddy here is, like I said, about 16 by 16, give or take a space. So our little mushroom, this little guy right here, would fit right here. So that kind of gives you a scope of just how big this puppy is going to be when it's done. But next time we get together, I'll be working on letters. I also have other projects in the works. We have a crochet project coming up soon that I will show you. We're going to be making a Mudkip hat and diaper cover for newborns, because if this is your first time watching me or listening to me babble to myself, which is pretty much what a stream is until you guys start watching me, we're going to be adding on to our family tree soon, and we're going to be making a Mudkip hat and diaper cover for his grand appearance, since his big sister wore Charmander stuff for her introduction to the world. I'm also going to teach you guys what this thing is and how to make one for yourself. It is called a needle minder, and you might be like, what are you talking about? That's absolutely crazy. What is that? A needle minder, it can be anything you want it to be. Button, metal, pretty much anything. And on the back, the rare earth magnet. So you have one magnet on the front, one on the back, and if you want your needle to stay in place, rare earth magnets are going to be your friend. Your needle's going to just chill. It's going to hang out and not go anywhere. I do suggest only using that needle minder if you're working on your project on one surface. If you're going to like take this on a bus or vacation or whatever, I would always suggest keeping your needles either in extra fabric of your work or in some sort of casing so it doesn't go anywhere. I keep all of my bits and baubles in here. All my needles, cross stitch, hooks. I have knitting needles, but that's a bit much. Knitting is a very interesting thing. So, like I said, next time we come together, we'll work on text. And if there's anything that you lovelies want to see me try and make, go ahead and drop me a line. Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter. Critter Stitchin is the name across the board. Just makes it so much easier. So yeah, ideas that you want to see. And next time we will do lettering, like I said. I will also take a few minutes in that segment to show you how to make your own needle minder. I think they're fun. For all my Disney peeps, if you have extra pins just lying around, those are going to be stupidly helpful. Or if you have a nice button that you like. Rare earth magnets are strong enough to work through like plastics. So even a button would work. You get a fancy button from your great grandma's sewing kit, we can make that into a needle minder and she'll be with you forever. So, needle minder. Text. We're also going to start working on plans for that hat and diaper cover, and then we're going to start trickling some crochet into this channel. That will probably take a bit longer than the cross stitch, because crochet is very left, right, around, in circles, color changes, lots more stuff to do. But we will see you later, my dears. Have a magical day.